Oh no, Eric, I'm missing had to readjust my time. I'm so sorry. It's late. Hope you all are doing okay. We're going to wait 5 minutes to see who jumps on here. Today we're talking about isolation and stillness. So we'll just wait about, 5 minutes and see who comes on. I know it's not my normal time, but I'm really at the end of this Being and Sing 366 video series, and the scheduling is an interesting thing come November. The holiday seasons are coming, and it's so very interesting how the stress and the pressure, I don't know what you all sense or feel, but the pressure is high with people right now. And a lot of people are starting to get sick is what I'm noticing. And hello, I'm just waiting for people to join on here. Eric says he's going to be missing today, which he has been one of the loyal watchers of this video. Hey, on Kush, how are you? Good to see you. Where are you watching from? Just waiting to see if anybody joins in. Might be more like yesterday and have a really easy, it's gonna be a shorter chat anyways. But India, all right. Well, India's quite big. What part of India? I don't know. It's very late in India, isn't it? Hey, Mike, good to see you. The squad. Well, today we're talking about isolation and stillness. That's the topic today. And I think a lot of people feel isolated when they're going through their spiritual journey. 3:30 a.m. Oh, from work. Okay. And Mike is from Florida. All right, Florida. Glad you made it through the storm okay. Just wait. Usually I wait about 5 minutes to see people are going to be joining on. We got 2 more minutes here. Today's been a busy day. Lots of changes happening for everybody. And it is not going to slow. So just hold on. I'm going to let Ra go to the bathroom and I'll be back. Okay, hey Jessica, good to see you. Sorry, had to let the dog out to go to the bathroom. 100% I believe in God, 100%. Okay, here we are today. It's the Being and Sing 366 video series. I am Kiana Sage. I guide people to peace. I come on here every day for this Being and Sing video series. This is practical application of daily practices that people can do to become more aligned with the natural laws, which is the natural laws of creation, source energy, God, you name it, whatever you want to align with. The natural laws are essentially what governs all energetic forms, whether you're aware of them or not. And so today we are talking about this topic of isolation and stillness. Now, a lot of people who are going through the spiritual journey find themselves feeling quite isolated, like they're all alone, or they don't want to be around other people who make them uncomfortable, or they start having really challenging awarenesses that people aren't what they thought they were. They thought people were one way, and then they learned they were another way, and those rude awakenings causes them to feel quite isolated. Well, today I wanted to talk about isolation and stillness and how it is formidable to our spiritual alignment, because it is quite challenging to have spiritual awarenesses when you're in the midst and among people who are not supportive of that spiritual journey. Okay, so when we are in isolation or stillness, that's an opportunity to truly connect with our heart and really do some deep dives into who we are, what we are, and how we serve. And oftentimes people are using this idea of isolation, unfortunately, in a way that doesn't serve them, which is called escapism. So when we don't want to deal with people, when we don't want to take responsibility, and we use isolating ourselves as a coping mechanism instead of an opportunity to realize, this is what it is right now. And if you're going to be in isolation, if you're going to be in stillness, you can do it consciously and consciously grow and evolve in your way of expressing, and use being in isolation and in stillness as a tool for greater spiritual evolution. And one way you can do that is to be present in your heart. When you're in stillness and in isolation, that's a great time to go and connect with your heart. To connect with creation is really an opportunity. But oftentimes people are in resistance of the opportunity to be still, because it's uncomfortable. And when you're still and in connection with your heart, that will help you navigate those uncomfortable moments. There will be uncomfortable moments when you're in isolation, but when you're in connection to your heart, you can create a much deeper, more palatable relationship with creation, source energy, and God. I think if you are present to your heart, and you are consciously working to acknowledge your emotions, acknowledge your emotional body, acknowledge that you have feelings that they don't need you to process them intellectually or even to know why you're feeling them. What is needed and required when you're in stillness is presence to your heart, presence to your feelings. And that's what makes the isolation much more valuable for the spiritual journey. I know a lot of people find it uncomfortable to be still, but when you're in stillness and in alignment to your heart, it's so much easier, what I would say. The other thing I would really think that would be most helpful for people to understand is that the isolation and the stillness isn't going to be something that lasts forever. You don't get to stay like a hermit. Unless you're, an enlightened one and you're living in a cave somewhere. That's not how it genuinely works for most people. We all have to come out of this cycle at some time. So just know that being in isolation and stillness is okay, and it is part of the spiritual evolution. When you are using it to grow spiritually, that means you will expand consciously. But if you're using the stillness or the isolation as a weapon to yourself, if you're using isolation as an escape, you're not going to have the same opportunities to heal. So I was going to keep today's session quite short and to the point. Just going to see, it doesn't look like we have anybody managing the chat here. So there are lots of spam. So, don't take offense to the chat, just move past the spam. Mike is saying, or they don't want to be around people because they think of themselves will be trouble or comfortable. Oftentimes when we're in this spiritual journey, there's lots of things that are going on within the mind and within the ego. Because the ego really works to keep things as they are, right, Mike? So oftentimes we say, well, we don't want to be around them because they're this way or that way. But really, it really is about us really listening to ourselves. And what do we need, Mike? What is it that we need? It's okay to be uncomfortable. Growth comes from discomfort. However, it is not also what most people understand the journey to be with. Tigra says he lives in a third world country surrounded by despair and loneliness that's getting out of hand. I'm so sorry, Tigra. The collective consciousness, there is no escape, you know, and we are where we are at because we have some lessons, some soul lessons about that environment, that culture, whatever we've been born into. And to judge others is to judge ourselves, you know? So we really need to learn how to be compassionate and look at our situations and our needs differently than those ways in which we will bash ourselves. The world we worry about is mortal. The afterlife we don't worry about is eternal. Oh, interesting. Lots of spam here. Okay. Given the isolation can lead to disconnection from the world, do you believe it is possible to find meaningful connection in solitude? Or does true connection always require engagement with others? Ankash, first of all, I love your comments. I love your thoughtfulness, and I really appreciate this question because I do believe we learn and we grow from being in communion with others. How that occurs is different for all of us. But just because disconnection can occur, which is escapism. So Ankash, we might be using different language, but escapism and disconnection, they're the same things. Very low vibrations, very low frequency, which is why I offered that isolation and stillness in connection with having presence to the heart and consciously working with our emotional body is formidable to our spiritual growth. And that does allow for true, meaningful connections. But when we do not allow ourselves the space and time to do the work that needs to be done in stillness, it can create hostility, I think. I think so many people are afraid to be by themselves. I mean, I think the last statistic, I don't even know, it was such an outrageous number, but I think the last statistic I saw was really above 50% of the population was on some kind of mind-altering, anxiety or mood-altering medication. So we have people who are very unstable in their minds and in their bodies and not balanced, who are afraid to be alone and be still. A lot of people get anxiety from being in isolation or stillness, while others who are on the spiritual journey are in isolation and escapism because they don't want to deal with the people who can't be alone. You know, it's kind of an interesting dynamic we have going on. But I do think healing occurs quicker when we're in communion with others, meaning a partnership or working with somebody on a regular basis, or we have somebody that we're consciously bouncing our processing off of, like that we're not doing that in isolation, that we're not reading books and using the books as a way to escape. We're not using the books as a way to process more intellectually. We need to process through our internal connections. And I think most people don't feel comfortable doing that. I happen to be very much an introvert. I don't need social interaction to feel complete or have meaning. I find your question to be quite fulfilling in my own reflection and connection, if you know what I mean. But I think a lot of people listen to what other people say is needed, and that you must have social interaction in order to grow. And I think it depends. It depends on what that social interaction is. If you're around a bunch of people who are not safe to be around, who do not take responsibility, who do not look at their own ways of lessons, and they don't look at their triggers, and then they just spew all over you, who wants to be around that? Let's see. Hey, let's see. We don't have anybody helping in the chat, just so you all know. So we get spam sometimes. Mike, bless your heart, ma'am. You are a kind soul. Good to see you, Mike. Thank you so much. Algeria, hey, Sailors Live. Good to see you here. Hi, Russian. I'm not Russian. You said I'm a Russian girl. Okay, well, looks like we're getting spammed here. Anxiety. Oh, I see Oliver's jumped on. Thank you, Oliver, for helping out here. I'm just looking to, the thing is moving. Would you give me advice for someone who suffers from anxiety? I've given advice in many of these videos about anxiety, what it is, but ultimately, one must get control over their nervous system. That's number one. Number two, you want to check for energetic and or physical parasites that will cause anxiety as well. But the other thing is anxiety is not being present, essentially. You're not feeling from your heart. You're not learning. So I would really look to develop a direct connection with God, to get present within your heart with creation, source energy, God. Those are ways that you can find resolution. I help people with anxiety all the time. It's not that hard to rebalance. But if you're taking medication, it's significantly more difficult. The nervous system is something that everybody should learn how to manage. They should know where it is in their body and how to control it. Your body is yours. You command that vessel. And if you're not commanding it and you're getting influence from outside influences, anxiety is a very common experience. It's unfortunate, but it is something that has happened. It makes people want to come out of their skin. But usually anxiety is coming from unhealed aspects, unhealed wounds, unhealed lessons, unhealed relationships, and a disconnection from within yourself. So connect within yourself, connect with your heart, connect with your body, connect with your emotions. That's what I would say. You don't need a therapist to learn how to do that. You just need to practice it. Bad Sheep, I don't understand your question there. I'm just looking for questions here. We're all made up of energies and frequencies. Yes, we all are frequencies. And if we're feeling escapism, if we're feeling disconnected, that is a low frequency, right? That you're making choices constantly based on that. And if you are going to choose to be in isolation and stillness, which it is a choice, it is something you can opt into, do it with connection with your heart. Do it with connection to your emotional body. Be intentional. I have a whole series on here for free on how to be intentional. Intention setting to synchronicity. I highly recommend that. Only stupid people are isolated. Isolation and stillness is a blessing. It really is a blessing. So it's so interesting that you're saying that it's only stupid people who want to connect with their spiritual self. Thank you, Joe, for your offer. It looks like we have Oliver in here. Well, thank you for your compliment about my skin. Mestri is saying it sounds like I'm talking about emotional intelligence. I'm talking about stillness and isolation. And there's a lot of people on yesterday's stream who talked about isolation. And really, oftentimes when people are alone or they're processing deeply spiritually, that can show up as isolation and stillness. But when we're present to our heart, then it can present as a space for healing. And isolation is often a good time to heal. Now, when we are in isolation and we are trying to escape, well, then that's when it becomes quite unpleasant. Hey, Norman, I thought I missed you. Thank you for your beautiful note that you left me on the other. I appreciate that. And thank you for making time to be back here. Good to see you. Cheers to being in sync, Norman. Michael Weber is saying, go for a walk. I think he's telling me to go for a walk. I love to walk. Me, myself, I have a high level of social anxiety. I'm so sorry. That is an experience that you're having. Oftentimes, I would suggest, 1, make an intention before you go out. 2, make sure you're around safe people. And 3, there are some things that you could do to help mitigate that. There is something called Rescue Remedy. You could buy that at your local store if you're in the United States, and or you can take an herb called ashwamaka. Ophium is saying, I've had a lot of depression lately. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to process my grief, my loss of my dad 2 years ago. Okay, I'm so sorry for your loss. I just had a client this morning who lost their father. So you're not alone in grief, although it feels quite alone. I would suggest doing something specific to honor your father, and then consciously make a decision to move on with your life by honoring your lessons in your relationship with your father. We can stay stuck in grief if we don't choose to get out of it. So at some point, we need to move on, right? And I'm not saying you haven't, but the fact that it's been 2 years, that's a long grief cycle. That tells me that you might be stuck, and that is not a comfortable, that would definitely make you depressed. So you have to choose to live your life fully. And maybe you can honor your fathers and your relationship with your father by living more fully. Like, do something specific to honor that relationship, and then make some conscious decisions. Like, I'm going to honor my father by living my life in like 1, 2, 3 ways in which you want to live more fully. For me, one of the ways in which I honor my mother is, every year on her birthday and on the day that she passed, I always do something to honor her specifically. And then, I live my life, and I learned all my lessons I have with my mother so I can live more fully and do the best I can every day to make, to be the best person I can, because I know that's what she would have wanted. She wouldn't want me to be grieving forever. No, you will lose your life that way. Hello, Turkey. Good to see you here. Without facing your fears, you will never learn and grow. I think it's a great courage and strength of the heart to really identify and move through your fears, because most of them are just fake anyways, right? Good point, Zeal. Harvey, that's not very nice. Hello Sheer is saying, if no one has told you yet, you're wonderful, bright, beautiful, and hopeful. The rest of your day goes amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Patrick says, always forgive and be able to move on. Right, Patrick? Yes, I agree. Joe is saying he used to suffer anxiety. Used to, that's good, due to sexually used as a child for most of it. I'm so sorry, Joe, that was your experience, but it's so common. It's so common. Crimes against humanity, crimes against children is a thing that we are contending with on a global scale. I have gotten closer to God by reading. Okay. Oh my goodness, you shot yourself. Norman. Thank you. Norman, you're so sweet and kind. Thank you. God is so powerful, he stopped the bullet from my brain and pushed it out my eye instead. Wow. Very dramatic. Do you think we can ever leverage our disconnected behavior as an asset rather than an impediment to form good habits, such as studying and reading can sharpen our skills and progresses abilities? Mike, I think learning is quite powerful, but I don't think, my personal opinion is that experiential learning is the most powerful. We can learn from reading and studying books, but really it's our experience that forms our opinions. It's our experience in challenging our beliefs that makes us feel more apart and productive in our lives. I do not think disconnecting behaviors in any way, shape, or form lend itself to being more conscious. So it's about being consciously aware in every moment. And when you are conscious and aware, then you make choices that are in better service to your body, your life, your way of being, and that of humanity. It's not excluded. Oh, Eric, you decided to come back. Good to see you, Eric. John Maxwell. Okay. Karen is saying isolation is a blessing and a curse. It can be very bad. Well, isolation, Karen, you bring up the point that I spoke to earlier, that isolation, when you're disconnected from your heart, can be quite challenging and prove to be a source of contention, right? We won't like it. But if we're in the presence of our heart. We're connecting to our heart. We're consciously acknowledging our emotions, and we're knowing that this is just a phase. Like being in isolation and stillness is not something that's going to be forever. It's a point in time. Joe is proving the point right here. He's saying isolation helped him get closer to God. And that's really what I'm talking about here, is like really coming into greater, deeper connection with your personal connection. Hey, Mick, good to see you here. I don't know what happened to your thing. It got blocked. My hair is being conditioned right now. But I'm so committed to this this live every day for this series that no matter what I have going on, and it looks like the rainbows are coming through the window now, I come on here and I do this live series regardless of how I look. Thank you, Norman. Tobacco cancer. You merely adapted to isolation. I was born into it. Interesting. I think it's really how we're doing what we're doing. And when we are not liking our situation, when we are in resistance of our situation, we may just need a pause in our life where we're not in the mix of things. We got to go and kind of be still with ourselves to learn. It's hard to do that when you're in with others constantly. But it's always going to be how are you consciously navigating your personal situation? Isolation and stillness will lead to a deeper connection within if you are present to yourself, if you are acknowledging using it as a time to, like, I'm going to do a deep dive, and you do the deep dives. You go and heal yourself. That's how you use isolation and stillness to your advantage. It's part of the spiritual journey. I don't know anybody who has evolved in higher levels of consciousness who do not utilize stillness as part of their practice. I know last year I spent, I wanted to do an experiment on a silent retreat because I always wanted to do a silent retreat, but I didn't really want to go stay in a silent retreat center. So I kind of created my own silent retreat, and I was doing 4 to 6 hours a day in just straight silence. I loved it. It's really helps you grow, but most people think they're supposed to be out in the mix all the time. So you have to really learn how to listen, and you do not want to do anything through the lower levels of consciousness of escapism. It does not serve you at all. Hi, Mick. It's a good time to isolate if it serves you to get back out in the world. Yeah, we have to really acknowledge there's always an ebb and a flow to life, right? Joe is saying, I have read ginger also helps for depression. Maybe you understand that more. I have not read that, although I will tell you when I was going through. So Joe, you bring up a good point. Joe is saying, I read that ginger is good for depression. I don't know that. I've never heard that. I've never read that. But I do know that when you have strong immune system, is always helpful for your hormonal balances, your mood balances. So how you're bringing up the really good point of eating foods that fuel vitality instead of siphon it away. Imran is saying infinite respect and love for brave brothers and infinite blessing for cute sisters. Karen is saying, wait, are you a psychologist? No, I'm not a psychologist, a therapist, or a doctor. Go read the description at the YouTube channel and or go to my website if you want more information. Zeal is saying, you are a beautiful soul. May God bless and protect you. Ditto to you, Zeal. Ditto to you. Karen, I have zero interest in reading the Bible. Clearly, you've never been here before. But you go read the Bible, and if it makes you feel empowered, great. Everything on this channel is not about the Bible. It's about creating your own direct relationship with God through your heart and through the natural laws. That's what we practice here. This is what I practice. That's what I'm sharing about. If you all want to read another literature, go for it. I don't have any problem with that. I think it's important for us to look at Zeal. You know, this is the thing, is that there's people in here that read the Bible. There's people that read the Quran. There's many paths to God. There's no one path. The one thing that is common in all of them is that the path is through the heart, and you must create a direct relationship. Religion is not the answer. Your relationship to creation is how you will actually heal yourself. Tobacco Cancer says, I made a promise to myself to stop dating. It's been almost 3 years, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I can't tell you what's right for you. Nobody can tell you what's right for you. I don't know what's leading to your decisions to not connect with others, but when you meet the right person, then you will know. Arun says, timing is different for everyone when it comes to grieving. I want to just add that grieving has become a habitual pattern of escaping, in my opinion, and that people are grieving because they think they're supposed to, or they think they're obligated to, or because they have not learned their lessons about that we're here to live life. That is why we're here. We are here to live. We are here to learn. We are here to develop a connection within ourselves to God and creation, and we need to honor that. Now, if we have loved ones that are dying, one of my best friends is dying now, as we speak, literally. And my commitment is to serve my source and to live life fully, to learn all of my lessons from that relationship, to honor that relationship that was and is still important to me. I am not going to be in grieving forever. No, I consciously choose to live my life, and grief is a part of allowing our heart to soften, right? Soften. That's a vulnerability. It's important for our heart to expand, but there's also a contraction, so it's okay. Joe is saying, it's okay, though, yes, I did it, and I'm truly more happy today. Joe, congratulations. I wonder, how long did you choose to be in isolation? You know, because consciously choosing to go into stillness and connect with yourself deeply can be very formidable. Karen is saying, is it bad to invest myself much more in the Old Testament than the New Testament? I I would ask you, why don't you go read all of the Testaments? Go read all of the Bibles and see which one resonates with you most. That's what I would say. None of them resonate with me. Zeal is saying, for me, it's a big curse being isolated, and thank God I'm not isolated. I think we're talking about isolation and stillness and being in connection with the heart. See, but didn't you say you have social anxiety, Zeal? I'm seeing. Okay, Karen is saying, I was really down in life and I lost my dad and everything went downhill. Grief can do that. I get it. I was isolated and I made things worse, but then in isolation, I read the Bible and it all changed. Good for you. This is what I mean about developing that direct connection. Sailor's Life says, I find peace in conscious isolation, right? Beautiful. Peace. I love it, Sailor's Life. That's awesome. Connecting with the heart, being present with the heart is key. Hello, XYZ. Good to see you. On Kush, I agree. We are all frequencies, constantly vibrating. Isolation and stillness can be a blessing, allowing us to tune into those vibrations and connect more deeply within ourselves and the world. Yes, we're all in it together. As we heal ourselves, we influence the collective directly. It's just a lot of people are so focused on the outside, they don't realize that the inside is what creates our realities. Just looking for questions here. Oh, Rainy Girl is saying, I'm in the world, but not of the world. I had those exact words in my thought today. When I learned that, I became free from the from the ways of the world. Thank you, Rainy Girl. I had those exact words in my thoughts this morning. That's beautiful that you stated that. We're in sync. Muscle therapy, hey, good to see you. Love it. Love that you're here, Neil. God is God. Lisa Bond says, finally, someone on YouTube who is talking some sense. Thank you, Lisa. Good to see you here, my friend. Let's be friends. People who are religious are closed-minded to possibilities. Muffin Man, you know, a lot of people who follow religion don't understand that religion is a man-made function to create separation. But, you know, we all have our own path to learn. So we're not to be in judgment of religion, but to just see religion for what it is, a path. XYZ says, you are right there, many paths which end up at one point. Stella says, I feel insecure. Well, Stella, that is a really beautiful awareness. So now that you know that you feel insecure, how are you going to address your self-esteem so you may feel more secure? Because we know security and safety, those are fears or illusions of the mind oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes. So you want to look at building up your esteem, and that's usually done with greater confidence and greater mental discipline. I help my clients with confidence all the time, and I would highly recommend looking at the series that I just completed, and it's a 3-part series on confidence. You might find some of that helpful. I believe in Christ consciousness, Phil. Thank you so much, Lisa, for your acknowledgement. It's so sad. I'm saying it with a smile, and I'm really trying to focus on the number of years that I had that friend in my life and how much love we shared with one another. And you can see my eyes welling up. Karen, you're going to have to go talk about the Bible somewhere else because we're not doing a Bible study here. That is absolutely what this channel is not doing, okay? Muscle Therapy says the book of In Coach was very eye-opening. I did not read that. I've never heard of that book. I've heard of the word In Coach, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Mick is saying, God led me to isolate. His guidance has been perfect. Beautiful, Mick. Mick, you're a warrior for sure. Karen, this is not a religious channel. So maybe go find a religious channel and find your answers. Anonymous, no, I am not a doctor. Go read the description or check out my website. You will see I do energy psychology, not a doctor. Muscle Therapy is saying my 8th grade social studies classroom had a poster of a figure peeking around the corner, and it read, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that you're not, that they're out to get you, right? Our perceptions. Shelby, depression was for me, but therapy helped. I'm glad you found a good person to help you, Shelby. I'm so glad, and good to see you back. Glad you found somebody to help you. Zeal, look into those things I mentioned earlier. Powerful Sun, good to see you today. We are talking about isolation and stillness today. JM, I have many thoughts on borderline personality disorder. I did a whole series. I think I may have done 5 videos on narcissists and the different levels of narcissists and how to identify and from an energetic perspective, because an energetic perspective is going to be quite different than the medical professionals who actually do a whole diagnostic, which I wish more people would understand how diagnostics came to be and what it's really about. But, you know, so I have a lot of thoughts. Essentially, anything that's going on with a personality disorder, otherwise known as, it's just going to be an imbalance, right? It's an imbalance of the ego mind. How that is addressed energetically would be quite different than what happens in other traditional paths. Karen says it's much tougher, the answer for death. It's seriously the most painful question posed. I think you should go look at my video on death and dying. I don't think that's an issue at all. It's always going to be about our perceptions about death and dying. And our perceptions are going to be correlated with our beliefs. So you want to go and find your belief system and really challenge the beliefs that you have about what death is. Okay? That might help you. Muscle Therapy, it's good to see you're back here. Elliot, hello. Oh, I'm your bestie. I need more friends. I learned to conquer my fears rather than them conquering me. Good job, Zeal. Good job. My sister is kicked out from in-laws' house due to a dowry. Then she came to our house and also fought with her due to her property disputes. And then she leaves our house to go stay lonely and crying. Well, I'm sorry, I don't even know what to say. You're not even asking a question there. I just say compassion and love for all of our situations. We're all in a different way of processing life. So we all have something to learn from our family members. Does that mean you guys won the championship, Neil? Hi, Isaac. Good to see you here. Oh, it's an ebook? Do you have any advice for finding a female? No, zero advice, Isaac. Zero advice for finding marriage, except for follow your heart. Yeah, yes, June is asking, isolation and stillness. Is there anything else? Yeah, escapism, which is what I'm offering as the alternative that most people are taking, and it's not working. So you want to do isolation and stillness in the presence of your heart, acknowledging your emotions, acknowledging mental imbalances, really learning about yourself, acknowledging the spiritual aspect of the need to regroup and realign within through peace and ease instead of, escaping and pretending. Mick is saying, I'm sorry about your friend. Won't say more, but she was your friend, and I would say she is an incredible person. Thank you so much, Mick. Yeah, she's my friend. She was a very good friend. She was like one of the, I'm going to do a thing on friendships. She was one of those people who she did a really good job at delivering tough messages with sweetness. Really, she was really good. Hey, nobody, good to see you. Welcome to the show. My energy has been minus for several months. The environment I live in is very isolated. I reached out today to general doctor's appointment and found I'm not alone with people to help. Yes, welcome. Good job. I'm glad that you reached out for help. Hopefully you didn't get a prescription with that reach out, but I'm glad that you see that you're not alone. And that in and of itself means that change is happening. So when you're by yourself and you're in stillness, it's okay to connect with your heart and acknowledge your emotions and look at your mental discipline. What are you focusing on? What are you working on? How are you evolving? Where are you growing? Oh, Enoch. Okay. I think that depression is only going to, isolation does not cause anger issues or depression. Isolation and stillness does not cause that. What causes depression and anger is going to be disconnection and escapism. That's what causes it. Anger is a lack of looking at what is actually going on in your emotional body. Are you sad? Why are you angry? What wounds need to be healed? What issues do you have that you have not tended to? That's what causes depression and anger. They're partners, okay? So isolation doesn't cause that, Shelby. Isolation does not cause that. The cause is always going to be within. What you do with isolation is your choice. How you choose to heal is a conscious choice that must be made repeatedly, every day. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Nobody? No need to worry about things you cannot control over. Don't sweat the small stuff. That was a book from many years ago that was very popular. But you know, it's true. Like, how much time do people spend fretting over things that are small? And those things are not going to fix their problems. We need to address where the wounds are. Go to the wounds, learn lessons, grow, evolve. Joel is asking, what is your alternative for isolation? It's stillness, it's presence, it's connection to the heart, it's connection to creation, it's connection to your emotional body. I think I've said it multiple times on here, probably close to 10, but we must acknowledge our emotions, our feelings. That's my solution to isolation. And I'm not saying that you need to go out and have a party, but it's not about an alternative. It's about embracing what's there for you. And if you are alone and lonely, do your healing. You're having that space for a reason. I remember distinctly one time when I was starting my business that I was hired by our company to do a lot of consults. And I was on staff, meaning that people would come in whenever they wanted and they'd see me and so forth. But there was a point where I would sit there for hours. Nobody was coming. And I was like bored. And I was like, this is so dumb. I'm not being utilized, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I used that time to grow. I could have been bored and stayed bored, but instead I looked at that time as space for me to create. What did I want to create? What other areas was I interested? And I would just use that time to create new things that I wanted to do. And I made a decision in that stillness that, you know what? I wanted to do more group work than I wanted to do one-on-one. And I completely shifted the paradigm in which I was working. Within 6 months, I went from having one-on-one sessions booked up to doing all teams. And my whole business had changed. And that took stillness. You have to connect with what the message is. When we have space to be still and in isolation, we need to leverage it, connecting with our heart. Okay, Zeal, good to see you. Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you. Samara is saying, sometimes you feel so low in life that there's nothing doing. Just staying in bed and doing nothing. We don't get motivation due to a cruel world around us. Sometimes we're done fighting. What are your thoughts? Well, that's a conscious choice that you're choosing. And I would say, how are you honoring your life by making those choices? And if you think staying in bed is what you need to do, and sometimes that might be needed, you need to rest, because rest is important to our growth as well. And if you're staying in bed, make sure you're staying in bed in pure connection to your heart. That you're not mindlessly scrolling on your phone. You're not binge watching. That you're consciously always staying in connection with your heart. That you're consciously scanning your emotions to see, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Am I disciplined in my thoughts? That's what I would suggest. Hey Shane, good to see you here. Thank you so much. You have a great day too. I felt like that was going to be a good question because some people here might not have understood that. Pisces is saying, my therapist was obsessed with going over specific events that happened. It made me feel like garbage for days. Oftentimes, talk therapy is about keeping you looped into their system. Not all therapists are like that, but many therapists are trained on that. I am not a fan of traditional therapy, Pisces. I do think that there are some good practitioners out there. I have good practitioners that come to me as clients, and there are conscious practitioners out there that really want to help their clients. But there are some that just want to make money. And in order for them to make money, they got to loop you in. Voice of Freedom is saying, my solution to isolation is video games and liquor. That's escapism. That's a very low level of consciousness. When you're at low levels of consciousness and vibration, you will open up portals with what you're doing, which are not favorable to health or growth. How do you deal with self-destruction? I call that self-abandonment. Do you think that's the same thing? Self-destruction, self-abandonment, self-sabotage, I guess. How would I recommend looking at that? Well, that would probably be a pattern, Jordan. So that's a good question. So oftentimes self-destruction is a pattern that's going to emerge from a place of which you have not, I would say, an event that probably happened in early childhood, I'm just going to guess, that may have caused you a great deal of distress around failure. So I would look at learning your lessons around failure. And what is failure? What is success? And really define that for yourself so you have some clarity. And then self-destruction is also going to be an aspect that's lacking self-love. So look at how are you honoring yourself? Do you not feel guilty about being alone? No. Guilt is not something that is optimal for consciousness growth. So, no. Why would I feel guilty for taking care of myself and connecting with God and creating new awarenesses for myself? Why would that cause guilt? Pisces. Nobody says Pisces. I can relate to your regarding therapy. Okay. Mick is saying, I found my anger was taking responsibility for every aspect of my life and actions helped so much. All right, Mick, good job. Your anger was taking responsibility for every aspect. Interesting. Oh, sorry. I was reading something and it moved. Why feel guilty for being alone? Okay. So rehab gives you space. I don't know about rehab. I don't have anything favorable to say about rehab. I've never been to rehab. I've never been, I'm not a fan of traditional systems of therapy. I'll just say that. I am suspicious. Like many people that come on here are suspicious of my unconventional approach of energy psychology, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment. I am more suspicious of any kind of dogmas, okay, where people are measured by insurances and rules, and I'm suspect. Shelby, I have zero interest in anything to do with that. Nobody says step it up here, double tap your screen like it's free. Oh, nobody, you're sweet, thank you. XYZ, how many hours should we meditate? I think that's an interesting question. I think meditation is very personal, obviously. And there has been times in my life where I would spend just 5 minutes a day, and there are other times in my life where I did 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. There are other times in my day where I did 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 20 minutes in the evening. It depends on how chronic of a situation you're in. Whatever the situation is, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I think it just depends on what you want to practice. When I was in a health crisis, I did 20 minutes 3 times a day, and it was challenging, but I did it because I needed it, and I did that for a good 30 days. That's a lot of meditation broken up throughout the day, but it's not You know, I can meditate easily for an hour, no problem. I think it's not about the amount of time that you meditate so much as the commitment to the practice to be still and listen. Do you like at the point of life we should push ourselves or stay low? Like someone suggests to go out and do this or that, but give advice. But sometimes it's just that things are not great. We should give some time. Sure? I have issues related to growing up the way I did, but I don't want to think about those events. Yes, the default is there is cellular memory, Pisces. So the events and thoughts about the events are memories will cause anxiety at times. But the issues need to be addressed. So maybe you just haven't found the right process to address the event. I know when I am working with clients who have trauma, it's not about the stories or the narratives about the traumas. It's really about the energy of it. And that's what I address. And you don't always have to know the details of, let's just say, misery or SA or any other kinds of things. You don't need to know the details to heal it. Although there are soul lessons that you will need to learn from any event that's caused you such shock, you know. And there a lot of times what you're saying about thinking about an event from the past that's traumatic can cause anxiety or shock in the system. And that's because it doesn't go away just because you choose not to think about it. We must address it energetically, in my opinion. And this is why I don't think traditional therapy is ideal, is because it doesn't address physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects as a holistic person. It only addresses, for the most part, maybe if you're lucky to get a therapist that's good, it'll address some of the emotion, but for the most part, it's just about your thoughts. And even that, I would say most of them don't do a good job at that. Anyways, and that's just how our society is, right? We have a lot of rigid dogmas that are dominating how people are getting healed. It's because there's a lot of money in people not being healthy. Mick is saying, no, what I've realized is my spelling is terrible ever since I started short texting. Mick, you're funny. Norman, 11 p.m. in Scotland. Start tomorrow. So good. Have a good night, Norman. Thank you for being here. We so appreciate you and your presence. Thank you. Okay, I'm just looking. Mick says, I have to say, Kiana, when you said place your hand on your heart when meditating, it has helped so much. Oh, good, Mick. Yes, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm glad that you found that supportive. Anytime you need to remind yourself to go to your heart, putting your hand is a great way. And then saying an intention, if you want to add to that, Mick, having an intention, whatever the intention is that you want, I think that would be good. I want to connect deeper with my heart and the energy of my heart. I want to connect to the connection of love through my heart. I like any kind of intention like that. Pisces is saying, yes, thank you. I want to relearn how to respond to similar situations, like my parents that chased me around the house yelling at you. And you can't escape. Now I have to bail and escape a lot. Yeah. I'm sorry, Pisces, but you could do it. You can find the right way. If it's not energy psychology and it's finding the right therapist, there was a recommendation in here from Shelby. You know, there is a way. You can't escape. So we need to find a way to address and heal. Hey, Red Hunter, good to see you back. Hey, Spiritual Awakening, you're back. Hello again. I listened to some of your videos. You resonate with my soul. Thank you. Good to see you here. Cyberpunk, why would you ask such an absurd question? I appreciate you being honest and genuine, not using your knowledge and information as a way to profit, but to really help people heal. It's refreshing. I'm doing this series, Being in Sync 366 video series every day on here. And if you're watching my videos, Spiritual Awakening and Official Knowledge, I love that one. Please let me know that you're watching the videos. And if you have questions on any of the videos that I put out, obviously they're just snapshots in time, but I'm certainly happy to elaborate if need, and it might inspire another video. Sean, why don't you let your hair down and let it be stunning? I'm conditioning my hair today, y'all. Attachment issues are dangerous, yes. And I'm sorry, yeah. The fact that you know you have attachment issues is half the battle. The other half is just letting go of them. Paul has a question but didn't ask. Yes, I am married. Question. So what you're saying is important to acknowledge your thoughts. Some of the thoughts are dark and mischievous. Why should I acknowledge? I said acknowledge you. Okay, Cody, acknowledge your emotions and your thoughts. Now, if you're having thoughts, which it sounds like you're having, that are not yours, not your pattern of thinking, not the type of thoughts that you would normally have, you want to disidentify from those. You don't want to steer clear because, okay, ignoring your thoughts or ignoring thoughts that are not yours so for example, let's just say you have a thought that's not your normal pattern and you're like, why am I thinking that crazy thought? And you think, I think that. Why am I thinking that crazy thought? That's not my thought. Then connect with your heart and realign yourself to your conscious. You must disidentify from thoughts that are dark and mischievous. Ignoring them is the same as going into agreement with them. So you don't want to ignore them. You want to acknowledge them and say, that's not mine. That's not my thought. That's my ego thought. That's my mind. That's AI, whatever it is. But you don't want to ignore thoughts that are not yours. And you want to be very aware. Oh, Mick is saying, I never met you, Kiana, and probably never will, but consider you a friend. That's amazing, Mick, because of these videos. I appreciate you, and I am so glad to see you guys on here every day, and I love that you shared that anything that I'm saying on these videos resonates with y'all. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Okay, y'all, it's been a little bit over an hour. Today's topic was on stillness and isolation, not to be confused with escapism and denial of life, right? We don't want to denial, and we want to be in life. We want to be present to it. I just saw what you said. You create the ability for people's ears and hearts and minds to open without being skeptical of ulterior motives. It's hard to trust people, although I do believe you deserve to be paid for your services. Well, I'm committed to doing this series, the Being in Sync 366 video series. It's been intense. It's been a lot, but I'm so glad that there are some people on here, official knowledge, that appreciate this platform and this ability to connect with people from all over the world around this topic called the natural laws and being in alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is not something I ever thought I would do every day, but we're close to the end here. We're in November. I will be doing this every day until the end of the year to complete this Being in Sync 366 video series. Every day, a different topic. If you're new here, I think everybody's gone now, but you all know I'll be back tomorrow with a different topic. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here. I'll see you tomorrow for another topic in this series. Cheers. Oh, see you later, Sailors Live. Thank you for being here. I try to see how you guys saying as I'm getting off. Oh, crybaby, I've already been to college campuses. No, thank you. Everything is away from traditional systems. Everything I'm doing. All right, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you. Sending lots of love.